ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੇਖ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਅੱਜ ਦਾ ਮੁੱਦਾ। ਕਾਫੀ ਚਿਰ ਤੋਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਇਸ ਮੁਲਕ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡੇ midterm elections ਹੋਣ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ ਇਸ ਨਵੰਬਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਬਟ ਉਨ midterms ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲੇ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਰਿਪਬਲਿਕਨ ਵਰਸਸ ਡੈਮੋਕ੍ਰੈਟਸ ਦਾ ਚੈਲੰਜ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ, ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲੇ ਹਰ ਇੱਕ ਸਟੇਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹਰ ਇੱਕ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਪਣੀ ਪ੍ਰਾਇਮਰੀਜ਼ ਹੋ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ। ਵਾਂਸ ਅਗੇਨ, ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਹਿਲੇ ਵੀ ਦੱਸਿਆ, ਇਨ ਪ੍ਰਾਇਮਰੀ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹਿੱਸਾ ਲੈਣ ਲਈ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਨਾ ਕਿ ਸਿਰਫ ਵੋਟਿੰਗ ਲਈ ਰਜਿਸਟਰ ਕਰਨਾ ਪੈਂਦਾ ਹੈ, ਬਟ ਕਿਸੇ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਆਪਦੀ ਅਫੀਲੀਏਸ਼ਨ ਰੱਖਣੀ ਪੈਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਸੋ ਹਰ ਇੱਕ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਬਾਰੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ, ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਐਰੀਜ਼ੋਨਾ ਸਟੇਟ ਤੇ ਸਾਡਾ ਰੀਸੈਂਟ ਫੋਕਸ ਰਿਹਾ। ਐਰੀਜ਼ੋਨਾ ਜੋ ਕਿ ਇੱਕ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡੀ ਅਪਸੈਟ ਸੀਗੀ ਪ੍ਰੈਜ਼ੀਡੈਂਟ ਟਰੰਪ ਲਈ 2020 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ। ਐਰੀਜ਼ੋਨਾ ਐਤਕੀ ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਮਿਡਟਰਮ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਹਿ ਲਓ ਬੈਟਲ ਗਰਾਊਂਡ ਸਟੇਟ ਬਣ ਚੁੱਕੀ ਹੈ, ਜੋ ਨਾ ਕਿ ਸਿਰਫ ਮਿਡਟਰਮਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਟ 2024 ਦੇ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਿਗਨੀਫਿਕੈਂਸ ਰੱਖਦੀ ਹੈ। ਸੋ ਐਰੀਜ਼ੋਨਾ ਦੀ ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਰਿਪਬਲਿਕਨ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਵੱਖ-ਵੱਖ ਡਿਸਕਸ਼ਨਸ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਤੇ ਅੱਜ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਖੁਸ਼ੀ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਨਾ ਕਿ ਸਿਰਫ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਜੁੜੇ ਹੋਏ candidates ਤੇ politicians ਨੂੰ ਇਸ ਸ਼ੋਅ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ, but today joining us in this program is the chairwoman of the Arizona Republican Party. Please join me in welcoming our guest for tonight, joining us from the sunny state of Arizona, Dr. Kelli Ward. First of all, Dr. Ward, welcome to the program. It's so good to have you.
It's great to be here. Thank you for inviting me on and helping to get the word out about how important it is, how important the South Asian vote is to this next election, and to making sure that we keep our country great.
Dr. Ward, you know, some might think that you understood Punjabi because that is exactly the words I just shared with my viewers in our intro here. How important it is to vote, how important it is to register and to register with a party so you can partake in a lot of these inter-party primaries and other kind of party work that you oversee in Arizona. I love that we have a chairwoman on the program. It's always a matter of pride when we see women in leadership roles, especially in the conservative movement that sometimes gets a bad rap for not putting women in the forefront. So I'm really glad to see you, especially from a conservative state like Arizona, which has been recently the talk of all of these political pundits when it comes to battleground states. Before we get into all the nitty-gritty stuff regarding this November and also 2024, I just want to learn a little bit about your background. You've been in politics for quite some time now, serving even as state senator in Arizona, but more recently, since 2019, you've been a chair of the Arizona Republican Party, serving as chairwoman. Now, 2019, Dr. Ward, seems like a lifetime ago, you know, with the COVID pandemic having shaken up the world. But I guess I'd love to hear about your tenure at the helm of the Arizona Republican Party. Tell us what your experience and some of your big accomplishments have been in the last few years in this role.
Right. Well, you know, I never thought that I would be in politics. That's first and foremost. And probably a lot of people out there watching never thought that politics would affect their everyday lives the way that it has. What we've seen with COVID, what we've seen with changes in elections, you know, politics has been at the forefront. I got into the political arena because of Obamacare. I'm a family physician by trade. In my other life outside politics, I still practice medicine today. And as a physician, I was keeping my head down. I was taking care of people, trying to keep people as healthy as possible. And then Obamacare came, the political intersection of my profession and politics. And what I thought about Obamacare and what I think has proven out is that it was the biggest takeover of healthcare liberty and healthcare freedom that we would ever see in our lifetime. And I found myself saying, why isn't somebody standing up against this? Why isn't somebody standing up for patients? Why isn't somebody having a voice? And I finally had to look in the mirror and say, why don't I do something? I've got skills and talent. I've been blessed with so much, and maybe I could put it to work for more than just my family or my patient population or even my community in Lake Havasu City, Arizona. Maybe I could go to the Arizona State Senate and fight that battle for medical freedom, even back then, 10 years ago. And I say somehow miraculously I was elected, okay? Because most people don't win the first time they ever run for office. I read a book on how to run. My family, my husband, and my kids are very, very supportive. They were basically my campaign team, and I was able to get into that legislature and be very effective. So those skills that I learned as a state senator, as well as a candidate for the United States Senate, put me in an excellent position to be the chairwoman of the Republican Party. Now, you mentioned women and being in leadership. I'm only the second woman in the history of the Arizona Republican Party to be the chairman. And prior to me, it was Dodie London, and it was about 30 years ago.
Wow.
And so I'm very proud to bring women back to the forefront in our party, because I believe that when, Republican women are the life of our party, and I think that women are able to multitask, see lots of things, and get lots of things done just because of our roles as wives and mothers and business people. We're able to kind of juggle all those things. And so I was in the right place at the right time to be the chairwoman of this party. And I think that it was imperative for us to have a strong leader at the helm during this time, because what we've seen is too much authoritarianism and too much tyranny that's kind of been pushed down upon us. And we need to have strong support systems for our Republican elected officials, the people who represent us, as well as for the people on the ground who are in businesses, whose kids are being kept out of school, who are being forced to wear masks whether they want to or not, all of those things. And we needed somebody who was able to apply the political pressure when needed and give the political praise when warranted, so that we could continue to move the policies in the right direction.
Absolutely. Dr. Ward, I'm really going to touch on something you said right at the start of your introduction here, that there were so many things you wanted to change, and instead of just sitting around and waiting for that change to happen, you kind of got involved in the system and did it yourself. That's a wonderful message, and I really hope our viewers noted that one down. As they say, you got to start by being the change that you wish to see in the world. Dr. Ward, there are a lot of challenges facing the country as a whole today, but I'm going to focus a little bit on your state. Before we get to some of the priorities of the Republican Party in Arizona, let's talk about some of the challenges, whether it be in the last couple of years during the pandemic or overall, when it comes to issues like immigration, border security, small businesses, jobs, and of course, public health. So tell us about some of these big challenges that you're facing in Arizona.
Well, in Arizona, we are a border state, and so immigration is important. Our biggest trade partner is right across the border with Mexico. So we want a very strong, robust trade relationship. We want both economies to be strong, but we want people to come here legally. We have the most generous immigration policy in the world to welcome people through the front door into this wonderful country that allows us to celebrate our faith, our family, and our freedom. Illegal immigration is the border crisis that we see. It is not just in Arizona. It's a 50-state border crisis. We have got drug trafficking happening. We've got human trafficking happening. We've got people flooding into communities that don't have the resources to care for them and to make sure that they are safe. We've also got the other side of the coin. When you allow people to just flow in illegally, people who have been doing it right, who have been waiting in line, sometimes for years, sometimes for decades, to be able to come to this country the right way, we are upsetting the ecosystem that should exist. What we've seen is that illegal immigration affects every single aspect of our society, from healthcare to education to public safety to our legal and our justice system. All of those things are being thrown completely off track because of the unwillingness to secure the border and to insist that people come to our country the right way. So that's one. Jobs in the economy. We saw the most robust economy in the history of our country under President Trump's leadership. And the Democrats have systematically destroyed that over just a little over a year. Where we were energy independent, now we are dependent, and our energy prices are going up. To fill up your car, it is so much more expensive to be able to put gas in your car, to drive to work, to do the job that you want to do. with the elections. We saw the COVID crisis that was very scary when it began, but it was utilized by politicians to change the very fabric of our society and our election and to devastate election integrity across the nation. So we do have a lot of challenges. The good news is we've got a lot of bright, shining lights that are out there within the Republican Party, but also out in our communities who are willing to do what it takes to put this country back on track, to make sure that faith, family, and freedom are prioritized, that government doesn't get too big, that our taxes aren't so high that it becomes a burden across the board on the middle class, on everyone who is able to create jobs and wants to thrive without government interference. And also our safety. We're seeing war in the world, around the world, and how we as the United States can project peace through strength and try to get us out of these conflicts rather than getting into more and more of the things where we probably shouldn't be in the first place.
Certainly a tall order, I think, of challenges here that you've gone through. You know, when it comes to some of these things, I think the point worth reiterating is that so many of them are connected. You cannot solve for immigration or border control in isolation from economy or public health or the justice system. All of these things are most certainly connected. Dr. Kelli Ward, I want to talk to you about then the priorities that you're tackling within the party, and especially when it comes to your strategy for the upcoming midterms and perhaps 2024, if you can share some of that information with us. We're going to stop for a quick break here. Dr. Kelli Ward, Chairwoman of the Arizona Republican Party, is with us. Please don't go anywhere. Viewers, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਜੁੜੇ ਰਹੋ। ਕਨਵਰਸੇਸ਼ਨ ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਸਪੌਟਲਾਈਟ ਐਰੀਜ਼ੋਨਾ ਸਟੇਟ ਦੀ ਰਿਪਬਲਿਕਨ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਤੇ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਜਾਰੀ ਰਹੇਗੀ। ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਤੋਂ ਉਸ ਪਾਰ। ਮੁੜ ਹਾਜ਼ਰ ਹਾਂ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੇਖ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਅੱਜ ਦਾ ਮੁੱਦਾ ਤੇ ਗੱਲ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਐਰੀਜ਼ੋਨਾ ਦੀ ਰਿਪਬਲਿਕਨ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ। ਐਰੀਜ਼ੋਨਾ ਜਿਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਾਫੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਹਿ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ ਇੱਕ ਇੰਟਰਸਟਿੰਗ ਡਿਵੈਲਪਮੈਂਟ ਹੋਈ ਸੀ 2020 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਇੱਕ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੀ ਸਟੇਟ ਜਿਹਨੂੰ ਇਸ ਸਾਲ ਇਸ ਮਿਡਟਰਮਸ ਲਈ ਤੇ 2024 ਲਈ ਇੱਕ ਬੈਟਲ ਗਰਾਊਂਡ ਸਟੇਟ ਮੰਨਿਆ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ। ਐਰੀਜ਼ੋਨਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੀ ਕੁਝ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ, ਵੈਰੀ ਈਜ਼ੀਲੀ ਇਸ ਮੁਲਕ ਦੀ ਸੈਨੇਟ ਦਾ ਨਕਸ਼ਾ ਬਦਲ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ। ਸੋ ਐਰੀਜ਼ੋਨਾ ਦੀ ਰਿਪਬਲਿਕਨ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਇਹਦੇ ਲਈ ਤਿਆਰੀ ਕਰ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ, ਉਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਜੁਆਇਨ ਕਰ Chairwoman Dr. Kelli Ward from Arizona. Dr. Ward, you really walked us through some critical challenges that are being experienced by Arizonans. And I would say a lot of these issues carry over nationwide. And so when we talk about Arizona's strategy within the Republican Party, a lot of that stuff certainly applies to the Republican Party as a whole. But I'd love to hear, what the priorities are for your party within the state of Arizona, especially as it relates to the upcoming midterms this November.
Right. Well, November 2022 is an extremely important time in the country. If people are paying attention, and I think most people are, because they've seen the big change from what it was like in 2019 before the pandemic and before everything just kind of went haywire across the entire globe, and today. And I think a lot of people do want to get back to normal, not a new normal, but the real normal. And as I travel around Arizona and really around the whole country, I hear from people on specific issues. They do care about election integrity. They want to make sure that when they go to the polls and they cast their vote, sometimes for the very first time, especially for people who become brand new citizens, they want to know that their vote counts and it counted the way they filled in those bubbles. So that's number one. Number two, the border. We kind of touched on it in the last segment. The border and illegal immigration is still the number one issue here in Arizona because it does affect so much of everything that happens here in our state and across the nation. Another big issue is our school system and education, and making sure that parents are able to get the best education for their children that is possible. We believe in educational freedom here in Arizona. We do not like to see what we see in our state and across the country, where unelected bureaucrats are the people saying what our kids should learn, what our kids will learn, trying to shut parents out of the process completely. That cannot stand. And that is an issue that unites both Republicans, Democrats, as well as those independents and people who haven't been very politically active. Our most precious responsibility, it's our children, and making sure our children can do better than we've done in our life, that they can get the education that they need to be able to thrive and prosper. So that is way at the top of our list. Also, of course, jobs in the economy. You can't talk about America without talking about jobs in the economy. People come here because when you come, if you work hard, you should be able to succeed. There is a huge entrepreneurial spirit here in our country, and we want people from all over to join that. But if the government tries to crush down on small businesses in particular, but large businesses as well, that prosperity can't exist. And so we're focusing on those things and getting the right people into office during the primary who can win the general, and then put those policies in place who make people happier, healthier, more prosperous, and more secure. That's republicanism.
Are there, you know, before I kind of get to getting to some of those finer details and hopefully some information, if you can share it, some inside information. You know, you mentioned two things which are incredibly important to the South Asian community in particular: education, family, providing a better future for their children. Indeed, that is the American dream that so many families, so many parents make their way to the United States for, and so they really push their kids to strive in that regard, and education is certainly a priority. But even the entrepreneurship, once again, within this community, there is a higher degree of entrepreneurship. And so especially when it comes to taxes and freedom to do business in a way that enables growth, enables success, enables you to go from that small to medium to large scale is so important. So I'm glad you touched on those as priorities for the Arizona Republican Party.
And I think that one of the reasons I am here with you today is because of two of my friends, Rocky and Tina Singh, who were from New York, but they relocated to Chandler, Arizona. I think when they were coming, a lot of people in the community there were very nervous about them coming to Arizona, the land of cowboys, and just kind of a different culture than New York. But they were welcomed with open arms, and I love the stories that they tell about people just embracing them, wanting to learn more about their culture and the successes of the businesses that they've put in place here in our great state. That is the American dream.
100%, and I couldn't agree with you more. Rocky Singh, such a valued member of our community. While we do miss him here in New York, his success and his outreach politically speaks volumes about the potential that we all can tap into. Dr. Ward, you mentioned you have some candidates that you think will go especially far. When we talk about November, care to share any names with us?
Well, whenever, as the chairwoman of the party, I support all Republicans during the primary season. I want them to be as strong as they possibly can be to be able to go strong into that November election. We've got some big races here. We've got the U.S. Senate race. The man who is in that seat right now hasn't done anything. We've got 5 gentlemen who are vying for that spot that are all head and shoulders above the current senator. I don't even want to say his name. I can tell you that because I don't want anybody to remember it. But the names you can look at: Blake Masters, Jim Layman, Mark Brnovich, Mick McGuire, and Justin Olson. They all, check them out. They are wonderful. Now, when you're looking at our state races, I am a big supporter of President Trump, have been blessed to be able to talk to him many, many times. He's made a few choices in those races. For governor, he's supporting Kari Lake in that spot. For Secretary of State, he's supporting Mark Finchem. There are other people that are in those races who are also very good, so I urge people to go and see. And one of the things that we're doing in Arizona particularly is setting, and across the nation, but we're getting an Asian Pacific American Community Center set up in Chandler, Arizona, because there is a large population, and we want to bring our candidates into those places, into those communities, and reach out, not expect people to come to us. We want to come to you. And not just politically, we want to build long-lasting relationships in these community centers, faith-based issues, education-based services, teaching people about financial literacy, all those kinds of things that build long-lasting, long-term relationships so that we together put this state and this country back on track.
I absolutely love that. I think that's stellar news in Asian Pacific Center, so the politicians can come meet with their constituents, learn about their diverse backgrounds and how they can better become a part of the American fabric. And of course, that's a two-way street. So that's fantastic that you shared that with us. Dr. Ward, you know, obviously 2022, the midterms right around the corner. This year is racing by, but 2024 is not too far behind, and you know, we anticipate as soon as these midterms are over, obviously depending on how they turn out, the race to the next White House will kick off almost immediately. And considering how integral Arizona was to the last presidential election, how controversial all of the undertakings that took place in Arizona were, you know, what do you, in addition to obviously voter and voting integrity, which is such a big one in this regard, what are your strategies for the federal election in 2024, specifically as it relates to your state?
Yeah, well, Arizona is the tip of the spear. As we saw with the audit of Maricopa County, I dubbed it the America's audit. The first time this country has ever been able to look inside an election, and even that wasn't fully transparent. I think that voters and American citizens want to know that our elections are legitimate. So we've got to make sure that we are putting things in place. We did in Arizona in the last the last legislative session. We got some election integrity efforts put into law. We're working on it for this year, and more will be in place by 2022. Looking at the field, you know, I think that President Trump has not said whether he's going to run again or not. I think a lot of people are waiting to see if that's the case. The Conservative Political Action Committee had a big meeting in Florida last week. They had a poll done down there. President Trump won overwhelmingly, with Ron DeSantis coming in second. If you took President Trump out of the mix, it was DeSantis overwhelmingly, with Mike Pompeo, who came in that next slot. So we've got, and we've got other very powerful voices, Senator Rand Paul, Senator Ted Cruz. We have a very deep bench in the Republican Party. And so I know this, we will coalesce around the candidate who does put America first, who believes in small government, low taxes, personal responsibility, and following the Constitution. The one who allows us to prioritize our faith, our family, and our freedom. And we will win that 2024 election, and we will make America great again.
Dr. Kelli Ward, Chairwoman of the Arizona Republican Party, so eloquent and confident in all of your assertions here about the future, not just of Arizona and the Republican Party, but of the nation itself. Dr. Ward, I unfortunately don't have much more time with you today, but I'd love to get some closing thoughts from you, specifically to the South Asian community in regards to voter efficacy, in regards to their participation in the system. Those folks who are listening tonight that are eligible to vote and maybe haven't really gotten involved in the process or the system, you're speaking to them nationwide. What would you like to say?
I would say, as I said at the beginning, everybody should get involved. Everyone can't do everything, but everyone can do something. And one of the easiest things that you can do to express how you love this country that you've chosen to come and be a part of is to register to vote. I would urge you to register as a Republican. Register as a Republican to vote, and then make sure you go to the polls and you actually exercise that right. It's very simple to do, and it is just so amazing to know that you as an individual have the ability to shape the very direction of this great country and to keep it the way that you want it to be. Many people have immigrated here because the place they left wasn't exactly what they wanted it to be, and they didn't have the voice to change it. Here in America, that is not the case. So get registered, get active, get to know the people who
Absolutely.
want to represent you, because they don't just represent you, they are your voice at every level of government, from the school board to the city council to the legislature to the Senate to the White House. And you have the ability to really make huge changes in the right direction.
Once again, perhaps the most important right awarded to us in this great country, the right to vote. Dr. Kelli Ward advocating for everyone to take advantage of that right. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Ward. Once again, Chairwoman of the Arizona Republican Party, we wish you and your party, all of the candidates associated running this year and in the following years, all the best of luck. And we'd love for you to join us again in the near future to give us some updates on some very important things that are developing in your state. Once again, Dr. Ward, great having you tonight. Have a good rest of your evening.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Take care.